Thank you very much, Kirk. It's really helpful to have some other tools to use and other approaches to try and get the message that we believe is very important out there. Our next speaker will be Stephen Leary from Washington University, and he's going to give us the academic perspective on laboratory animal transportation.
Thank you, and thanks for staying. I thought actually by now, Kirk, 6 copies might be enough for the who might be left. What moves things ahead? Sorry. I meant to do this on the break. Oh, there we are. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. Washington University has a full-time coordinator for import and exports. We have strong collaboration at the institution, which is helpful scientifically, and internally we transfer 40 to 50 cohorts a week between the scientists there. I asked our coordinator, Gary Barron, for numbers in the last 12 months, and he said that we have 450 PIs we provide service for as an animal resource, that we have done about 325 exports and 225 imports in the last year. These have gone to about 160 locations around the United States, but and outside to approximately 20 other countries. Time required varies, takes longer for exports, and in addition to Gary's time, there's a time required by the animal care staff in their packing and the dock supervisor as well. I think that it's exceptional. Dr. Disco mentioned that he has 2 people involved in this process, one for export and one for import. And much of what I had in here we've covered in the last 2 days, and so I'll be skipping over some of that. It would be redundant. I want to, I think my purpose would be to emphasize the value of having a coordinator within your organization. The goals are to keep everybody happy. The PIs, scientists these days, there was a study done by Council on Government Relations, COGR, strong university college group, which determined that scientists are spending 42% of their time doing paperwork for meeting requirements, governmental requirements. And so the production is, on the research side, is badly compromised. So likewise, we're dealing with expensive animals at times. I had just one brief example of a pair of rats that came into our university a couple of years ago from Germany. They were labeled with their peripheral neurons were labeled with fluorescent green protein. The lady, this exceptional lady that heads up our plastic surgery division at the university, does nerve transplants, and this was a way for her to be able to monitor the regrowth of these nerves without having to do some invasive surgery and histology. These were these 2 rats plus a little RNA were $16,000, and so I told our staff to put them in a separate room and get up there and give them a big kiss every morning. And they worked out they worked out well for her. So we want to try and keep our investigators happy. We by moving their animals quickly and as efficiently as possible. We want to try and keep the lab animal vets happy by keeping animals as disease-free as possible, and we want to try and keep the animals happy by doing all of the above, plus meeting all of these requirements that we've heard of in detail in the last 2 days in regards to appropriate shipping crates and so on. Having said that, I know it's important mental health-wise to have an active fantasy life. There was a song a few years ago that spoke to that, where it said, "Don't worry, be happy." And we know that in practice, it's not perfect, and we don't keep everyone happy. We do have instructions on our departmental website for our scientists within the institution to help expedite the process. So the coordinator's role then is important. Fortunately, we've have this gentleman who has provided this service for about 20 years now and is very experienced in it. He then deals with all the external and internal contacts, including the other coordinators. Mr. Kennedy mentioned that this group is putting together their own national network, which should be helpful. PIs, lab staff, veterinarians, both local and the receiving veterinarian, facility managers, supervisors, loading dock staff, and couriers all have to be coordinated. So all levels are involved, and he also has to be familiar, as he is, with the documentation that we've considered with the various organizations, and likewise with our internal requirements for material transfer agreements. He tells me that, Gary tells me that there are some even large institutions, academic institutions in the country who have not centralized this at all, and have left it to various lab managers spread out through the institution. And one couldn't expect those folks to have the necessary tools or understanding of the process, which then, of course, would add to inconsistencies and unhappy folks on both receiving and sending, and the sending end. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we've discussed this a lot in the last few days. He receives an import-export form, and it's reviewed. He has to verify that the protocol is valid in all aspects. For imports, we request health status information from the other institution. And we need to make sure we have space in quarantine. It has to be coordinated. And then there's verification of all of the shipping information and shipping restrictions, such as no mixed species and watching out for the appropriate animal carriers and so on. So we additionally then will not import animals that are harboring any infectious agents. That, of course, needs definition, which we've heard about from a talk from Kate yesterday. We request health data from the last 12 months, and including serology and parasitology and bacteriology. A summary of any outbreaks that they've had and how they were handled, and a description of their testing program and housing conditions. For exports, we likewise send out the same sort of information, 12 months worth of sentinel data and history about how we do business, including housing conditions and feed and water quality and so on. We've heard about much of this in the last couple of days. So, as to exports, this information is gathered And when approval is received from the attending veterinarian's office, the shipping coordinator interacts with our necessary team, with the courier regarding the pickup, and with our supervisors to make sure that we have these packaged at the appropriate time. And one business day, prior to departure, our coordinator accumulates all the appropriate necessary labels and delivers those to our supervisor in our loading dock area so they can package these and get these properly labeled. My secretary got a little carried away and found Chucky the cat here, and this is the probably mental reaction to the scientists who receive yet another long form to complete before we can initiate any action. The main issue here is that if this is not properly completed, that there will be delay issues, and that's stated in the underlined sentence right up at the top. Some of these just are missing basic information. Most notably, and Mr. Quest mentioned this, and our shipping coordinator would concur, that we veterinarians are the ones that usually mess this up and cause the delay. Sometimes the scientists, however, will not get this form in a timely fashion. Again, I wanted to emphasize the value, rather, of the coordinator and the required communication. And so this is a statement that I'll leave you to read for yourselves that appears, I realize it's not a particularly erudite statement, but it makes the point to those getting on our website that if they want to do this, initiate a shipment one way or the other, that they need to communicate with us very clearly. Sometimes, as well, then, as we've heard, there can be labeling issues, which can be another problem. Again, the problems involved in this are those that we've considered in the last few days. We talked about weather delays. We have a supervisor, Paris Creighton, who loves to do drawings, and we can assign him anything. So, but I know there's a typo here on the cold temp. I apologize for that. But, that might do coming out of Minnesota or something. Not for most of us. So we do run into weather delays. These result then in unrealistic expectations on the part of the scientists, sometimes, again, due to their lack of planning or lack of attention from the veterinarians, resulting in timing issues. And these folks are under enormous pressure. I had a call from one a few years ago who said, I need to get some mice in from Germany, and I need to get them in by Friday because this other lab in Europe is doing this same experiment I'm doing, and I've got to beat him to the publisher with the article. And I said, well, it's going to take a couple of weeks, Bob. No, I don't have 2 weeks. They'll have it done, and I need it done by next week. So the timing issues are critical. At our institution, the director of the Office of Technology Management has to sign off on the MTA. That can be a delay. I'm told by our coordinator that sometimes nothing personal here, sometimes it's 2 to 3 days getting the sign-off from our USDA, from the state, what we need from the state, and sometimes this is due to PI issue because the PI hasn't signed the paperwork before it was sent. They were sent off. And then some countries, yes, China and DEFRA in the UK require import license numbers. So we, I'm sure everyone here has stories of things that haven't gone as expected. We had a shipment of mice in Miami, and the courier down there, who had been used previously, somehow confused Fort Lauderdale with Miami. And in the ensuing drive, the temperature the mice weren't held at proper temperature, and 6 out of 12 of them were lost. And then we had an incident where some airline cargo folks in an airport hangar on a forklift ran over a box of our mice, and that's not an acceptable euthanasia method. And so that had to be redone. So some of these things are out of our control, but with the coordinator with proper attention, these things can be minimized. And I thank you for your attention.